Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 2 of the Unsung Heroes for the 2026 Pro Motocross season, episode number 18 of 2026 altogether, episode number 19 of 2026 altogether. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, the longest running national on the AMA Motocross calendar is the Hangtown Motocross Classic. Another edition is in the books. There's plenty to talk about and plenty of privateer and non-factory racers who performed well. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. We will, of course, be covering the top 250 and 450 racers in the AMA Pro Motocross Series. Women's motocross back in action. The WMX Series kicked off in Hangtown. We will be talking about some of the top competitors from that division and also giving a little bit of love to a privateer from MXGP and a couple of Americans competing up north in the border in competing north of the border up in Canada. Thank you so much for tuning in, and without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into things with an interview. We are kicking off this week's Unsung Heroes Hangtown Motocross Classic 2026 with a guest who appeared previously last year. He competed at Fox Raceway in Hangtown a year ago. He was back, traditionally an off-road regular, competing in the NGPC series on the West Coast. He's racing for the RPM Racing KTM team. He's back after scoring some points this weekend. 19-19 in the motos, 22nd overall. Got screwed a little bit by the motocross math, but still walked away with 6 points from Hangtown. Please welcome from Australia, Mason Semmens, back to the show. What's up, man? Great to see you back in pro motocross, and great to see you back in the points this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good time being out there. I was glad I could get to them again, and yeah, I was stoked to score some points at Hangtown for sure. It was good fun. It was a good day.
We'll go ahead and get right into things. Speaking of your weekend at Hangtown, obviously nowhere near as hot as last year when it was around 110 degrees at that event, but still a lot of competition out there. Of course, so many very talented factory racers, in addition to some of those other privateer guys out there grinding. Been a very deep field in the 450 class so far, but you've been very competitive. Take me through your weekend at Hangtown, how the day progressed from qualifying into the motos, and then take me through your afternoon scoring some points and really battling in there with some of the top guys and top privateers in the class.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely nicer weather. Last year was honestly it was pretty miserable up there, 110 degrees. I was questioning what I was doing there, but this year was a lot nicer for sure. So it was definitely made for some good racing, and the track was good. They prepped it nice. It wasn't like Parlo, weren't just stuck in a rut kind of thing. You could actually move around. So from the get-go, honestly, I felt really good on the track from like the first qualifying session. I think I was somewhere around 26th, which was, I think it was one of my best qualifyings I've had so far. And then the second qualifying, I think I was overall 24th or something. So yeah, from the get-go on the track, I felt good. I kind of like a course where you can sort of, open the corners up and sweep around and like, you know, kind of look forward and choose your lines instead of just being in a rut the whole time. So I mean that was good for me. And then yeah, first moto, terrible starts both motos. Honestly, I don't know what it is. I just can't seem to get off the grate competitively against them guys. Like the first 10 to 20 feet, they're just a bike length ahead of me already. So I'm like already on the back foot. But got around the first turn, which was pretty sketchy. They kind of changed it this year. It was more of like a 180 hook back on itself, where previous it was kind of a 90 and then a right hand turn. So it kind of funneled in and got pretty tight. So that was a bit hairy in the motos, but we got through it and made some quick passes and yeah, was found myself in 18th, 19th, I think for a while around there, 20th, like that. I think Prado's bike let go, maybe something that gave me position, but yeah, me and Dante seem to find each other every time on the track, which is pretty cool being off-road boys. But yeah, 19 in the first moto, and then second moto had that restart. Unfortunately, Jay Cook went down, and yeah, the restart I was firing a bit better than the first initial start, so I was kind of benefited me getting that one lap sprint in and get the heart rate up. And the second start for the restart, I was be able to push a lot more. And same thing, made some quick passes, and yeah, me and Dante found each other again, and yeah, did my own laps and ended up 19th again. So yeah, I was stoked. It's a good day, positive day. Yeah, scored points.
It's funny you bring up Dante Oliveira because that's something I was wanting to ask you. If you're out there on the West Coast racing these NGPC races, some of the other off-road series, stopwatch nationals at Glen Helen a few weeks back. Now you're here in Pro Motocross, Fox Raceway, Hangtown. You found each other a lot at Hangtown. I know I was at Fox Raceway and I was watching Dante and Benny Bloss battle for 17th for what seemed like an eternity. Half the moto, those guys were just going at it at Fox, but of course you race Dante all of the time. You're used to competing against him, but can you compare racing against him on the off-road stuff to the motocross stuff? Is there some like similarities between your styles and how you really attack the track and focus in the outdoors compared to how you guys usually compete in the off-road series? And also, what are the differences? Because I'm sure that when you have a 30 to 35 minute race in the outdoors, it's a little bit of a different strategy to try to get him and pass him compared to what you do in a 90-minute race.
For sure, it's definitely got its similarities and its differences too. Like, at some GPs this year, it's kind of just been, I think it was Parlour and GPC in Glen Helen. It was just kind of me and Dante out front, just me and him. Where in the motos here at, Hangtown especially, it was not just me and him. Yeah, we were together, but there was also, who was with us, Mitchell Harrison and Benny Bloss, and like all them guys are surrounding us too. So it's kind of like, yeah, Dante's there, and it feels somewhat normal to me because we've been doing that quite often this year. But there's also 10 other guys that are battling for position two right there. So it's kind of like a bit more hectic, I guess you could say, for sure. And especially on a tighter, smaller lap time, more intense, race course, it definitely does bring a different element into of, you know, the attacking and whatever. Like it's just there's a lot going on in them races. I mean, the first three laps of them motos are something else. Like it's honestly a little scary. There's a lot of stuff going on, cross jumping, not intentional, just that's just how what happens. And there's roofs flying everywhere. You can hardly see. You rip and tear offs, and like guys come from the outside, inside. Like it was pretty hectic. So to be able to, you know, find Dante there, both motos was kind of funny, and it was fun, and it's more of like a bit of a comfort thing too, I guess, racing with Dante in that situation because, I know how he races. I know what he's like. He's not a dirty rider. He's not going to do anything stupid on the track or anything like that. So it was fun. It was cool. I mean, he obviously rode better than me for sure. He got me both motos and happened to pass me both motos too. So he's a bit of an animal, old Dante. He just keeps chugging along, and he's got a bit of that bulldog riding style that just smashes through the bumps and smashes the ruts, and it works for him. So he rode well, and yeah, hopefully we can keep battling in the future. It's always cool to battle someone like that.
Going back the previous week at Fox Raceway, as I mentioned, I was there and I noticed you were pretty far back off the start. I'm assuming you went down in that first moto and you just kept charging, kept your head down, kept working forward in those motos. And you talk about the intensity and how crazy it gets in the first three laps. Everybody's jockeying for position, everybody's trying to move forward. Talk a little bit about working your way through the pack because I'm sure once again it's a little bit different than if you had to work through the pack in the NGPC races. You have a little bit more time to pick your way through the competition to really find your lines and work them in, but you were pretty far back, but you could tell you were on the gas at Moto 1 Fox Raceway.
Yeah, for sure. Moto one at Parlour, I happened to go down in the first turn, and the first two, three laps I was literally by myself. So it was actually good because I could find my own lines and, back it down from 110% to, let's just say, 100%, and, smooth it out a little bit instead of being in an intense battle from the get-go. So it was like a couple laps to kind of find my lines and focus on my technique and just get flowing. And um, then all of a sudden I was on the back of guys, and I started just making passes one by one. And it was honestly a pretty fun moto, just seeing how far up I could get. I was already in 39th. I couldn't really lose many more positions. So it was kind of just how much further forward can I go, So that was fun. Just chipping away and yeah, picking them off one by one. And I think I ended up 27th. So I was relatively happy with that one. Second moto, just terrible start and didn't really have much fight in me, to be honest. I couldn't really push forward comfortably. I had a massive moment up the Dragons back there where I think Jacob posted a photo of it actually of him getting sideways. I did the exact same thing, and it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. I was like, yeah, that was a bit too close. So Moto 2 at Parla wasn't my best riding, so I was glad at Hangtown I could ride more like myself, and I feel like inside that top 20 is where I feel like I belong in these motocross races. So I was happy with Hangtown to rebound and ride more like myself and get some points for sure.
Relating to Fox Raceway once again, I know you mentioned competing there both in AMA Motocross and the NGPC series. Obviously, for your off-road stuff, you got a longer course. You're going off in different paths, different sections of the property there at Fox Raceway. But in terms of the preparation level, for those who may not be aware of some of the off-road stuff, how would you describe how the track breaks down and how things are prepared a bit compared to when you have a national? Obviously, only 30 minutes, but you have 40 guys or so tearing through the track every single lap, plus, of course, the 250 races before you guys. And then compared to your NGPC off-road stuff, where it is a bit longer and you're going a lot longer in terms of the time distance, 90 minutes, but I'm sure there's a different level of breakdown in there as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone can agree that no one can ride Fox Raceway the way it is like the National. You know what I mean? Just the way they prep it, rip it, and then just the caliber of good riders on the course at the same time of how it forms up. And yeah, I feel like the Fox Raceway National, the track itself, it's like you can't get that during the week on a Tuesday or even an NGPC. I feel like it's just just always so different. The NGPC, we kind of, we call it a bit of a GP prep where they don't really rip it too deep or get too crazy with the motocross side of things of prepping the track. And then of course we rip off the rocks and go up there, do all that stuff and the bit of flat stuff up top. So you kind of get a bit of a break on some straights and take a deep breath and rest the arms a little bit. Where yeah, the national at Parla is just brutal for 35 minutes on that 2 minute, 2.5 minute lap time of smashing the same ruts and bumps. And yeah, I think it kind of catches who rides it during the week all the time and goes to the national, which is so different of how it forms up. And yeah, like I said, he kind of almost stuck in a rut, the whole time. Sort of hard to move around, and it's so soft, and then the rocks start showing up at the end of the day and gets hard packed. So it's a difficult race course, but you know, it's the same for everyone, and we all got to ride the same thing. But it's a bit of fun for sure at the end of the day.
Obviously, you representing the RPM Racing KTM team, primarily an off-road team, but the whole crew showed up to Fox Raceway, and it was still a pretty solid effort from you guys at Hangtown. Of course, you were in the 450 class, Noah Gordon in the 250 class, Cole Zeller was at Fox Raceway in the 250 class, and actually ended up in the second moto after a couple guys weren't on the gate. But last year it was really just yourself on your own trying things out. This year it seemed like the team really went all in. And I know Cole has some experience racing pro motocross. Late last year he was at Budds Creek. Talk about how the team transitioned into motocross. Obviously, enduro, these long off-road races is their specialty. But were you able to convince some of the guys and be like, hey, this motocross stuff is really fun. We should go try it as a unit this year?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like, obviously I did Parlour and Hangtown on my own last year, with support from my team for sure. But, I think it kind of, maybe opened the guys up on my team to say, hey, maybe we can go do this as well. And, Mike and Sherry have been really helpful and open to letting us do some other races, like these nationals. And, it's cool to see them boys wanting to go out and have a crack at it too. And, I feel like it's hard. It's not our specialty. Like I feel like for Noah and Cole, who didn't qualify, I feel like if 250 class especially, power is a big thing. Some race motors or a bit more primarily focused on motocross. I feel like them boys can for sure qualify into the motos, no problem. So that's probably a thing for next year. But it's cool to see them want to have a go too, and for sure we all get the support from the team to go do it and just prove that we don't just do off road we can go do some other races too. And we're a good team dynamic. We all have fun doing it, and it was cool to have them at Parla too. And yeah, we all had a good time. It was good to have them there. So hopefully in the future we can get to some more together for sure.
I'm switching gears now to the NGPC series, your regular home. For the listeners at home who may not be as familiar with some of the off-road series, take them through your season so far. I'm not quite sure personally how many races you've competed in this year in NGPC, but take me through your 2026, how things have progressed in the series, and for maybe new fans, what could they expect if they want to either watch from home or go to the track and attend one of these NGPC events?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every round's been live streamed on YouTube. So that's pretty cool that they do that for us. But yeah, they're cool races, man. It's a different style of racing for sure. We say it's a 90-minute sprint, which it kind of really is. Like we're Glen Helen and Fox Raceway, we do gate drops, and it's a motocross start, and the intensity's up right away, and you got 90 minutes ahead of you on a forever changing course. You got rocks and flat track and motocross track and a little bit of pavement. That we race there at Glen Helen majority of the time and things like that. So it's got a bit of everything, but they're fun events. I mean, my season itself's been relatively okay. The last two rounds have been really good. Led a few laps and almost won at Fox Raceway. I think Dante got me by 2 seconds at the end. Um, so yeah, it's been going well. Bit of a slow start, mechanical issue at round one, and then a couple rough races. Just still, learning the pace of them guys and the intensity the 450 class runs off the start. It's actually pretty impressive. The off-road guys, they don't care if that's 90 minutes. They're ripping for as long as they possibly can, and off the start, it's so intense. So had to kind of learn that a bit of just being in the motocross mindset almost at the start and just getting into it and not worrying about the time frame or whatever and just go for as long as I can. And kind of figure that out towards the end there, round 5 and 6. I got 2 second places and was real competitive. I was running up front and had some good races. So bit of a break now, the summer break. Got one more works race I have to do at Glen Helen in a couple of weeks, and then yeah, we've got summer break and then back at it in Idaho in August for the NGPC and things like that. So yeah, highly recommend for everyone to come have a go at them. It's a different type of racing, and it's for sure gnarly. But I think once you get through the 90 minutes, at the end of the day, you look back at it, and it's always a good time, and especially when you get good conditions and it's not too dusty or whatever, and it's fun racing.
Obviously, yourself, Dante, guys in the past as well would come over from the enduro side of things or the off-road side of things, try their hand at racing. I think Ricky Dietrich is really one that sticks out. He was even a factory Kawasaki fill-in at one point during his career and getting top fives and top tens during pro motocross in the 450 class. You guys obviously have part of that race in the motocross conditions on the motocross tracks, like you mentioned, Fox Raceway, Glen Helen. You're out there on what would be the pro moto track before you start switching off to the hills and the rocks and the different trails. So for these NGPC events, in terms of the percentage, how would you describe the level of the layout? Is it kind of 50-50 between the motocross sections and more of the off-road stuff, or is there a little bit of a different ratio? How would you describe the balance between the more moto style of things and the enduro sort of side of things?
I'd say it's probably more 70% off-road, 30% motocross. I think in the rule book, apparently, I've heard from someone that it's meant to be 1/3 motocross, 1/3 off-road, and 1/3 pavement, which we definitely don't race 1/3 pavement. So I think it's more like, yeah, 70% off-road, 30% motocross, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, some of the off-road sections are kind of like a big motocross track at these events too, like, big, wide open, fast flowing berms and, just a little bit of different stuff where the rocks. I mean, at Parla, we've got a nice little rocky section. Glen Helen, we run up and down the creeks, but for the most part, like Delano, the first round of the NGPC is like a wide open, fast, big flowing green grass, hills. It's like a full on big motocross track. There's no rocks or logs or anything crazy. So like for a motocross rider to come to that one's probably comfortable for them. even the second round of Blythe's like a big sand track too. So it's like they're not the gnarliest courses of like full on off road, big hill climbs and rocks and river crossings or any of that stuff. It's pretty mellow off road, I'd say, and yeah, I think everyone to come have a go, especially motocross races, is probably somewhat comfortable for them to go fast and feel good at these races, and I'm sure they'd be competitive. A lot of motocross guys have converted over to NGPC, such as Zach Bell and a couple guys like that too. So and they ride real fast when they do it. So I think you just got to be a good motorcycle rider. You got to ride everything, motocross, off road, trials, bikes, hard enduro, whatever you can get your hands on or whatever. It's like it all relates back to certain things, and at the end of the day, it's riding a motorcycle. So it's cool, and yeah, hopefully some more motocross guys can come have a crack at them.
This has been Mason Semmens on the Unsung Heroes of Hangtown, fresh off of his point scoring performance at Hangtown. Before we wrap up, feel free to go ahead and give a shout out to some of your sponsors. Of course, we've mentioned the RPM Racing Team multiple different times, but give a thank you and a shout out to those who have been supporting you throughout the year, throughout the past couple years, and plug your social medias as well, where people can find you at after they listen to the show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, without Mike and Sherry at RPM KTM, I wouldn't be here racing on the West Coast. They took a big gamble on me a few years ago, and I come to California with virtually nothing, and they gave me everything. So shout out to them for sure. Precision Concepts. Bob Bell works hard on the off-road scene, and he threw a motocross setting in for me to go motocross racing, and he nailed it. So stoked with that, and just yeah, all my friends and family at home that always tune into my racing and support me from back there. It's always cool to get them watching and supporting me and sending me messages after the race and stuff like that. So big thank you to them, and yeah, just everyone that helped the team out, and Power of the Mind, Denise and Steve Hatch, they've helped me a lot too the last couple of years, pushing me forward. Ross from Trail Jesters, he helps me out too. He's been there since day one of me in America. Yeah, thank you to him, and yeah, everyone else, man. It's been a good ride so far, and I love the support from everyone that gives me, and can't wait to keep it going. And yeah, my social media is just Mason Semmens on Instagram, and that's kind of where I do most of my posting and race recaps, and try to stay active there as much as I can. So yeah, thank you to everyone that helps it.
Thanks for the time this week, Mason. We appreciate you joining the show. Best of luck in the rest of your NGPC series, and hope to see you back at an AMA National soon. Take care, man.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you to Mason Semmens for his time on this week's Unsung Heroes. Of course, as he mentioned, you can go follow him on social media at Mason Semmens. The RPM Racing KTM team will, of course, be competing in the remainder of the NGPC series through the rest of 2026. Now we will go ahead and move into the 250 division, and Max Voland reclaiming his spot at the top of the non-factory pecking order. He looked really fast in Fox Raceway, did not have the results to show for it. A bit better this time, 9-5 for 7th overall for Max Voland. It was another charge through the pack in the first moto, started 19th, gained 10 positions, including passing a bunch of factory riders, and he climbed to 10th with a few minutes to go, took 9th from rookie Enzo Timmerman with 2 to go. He survived that early crash in the second moto, got through there unscathed, and then top 5 for over half of the race. He was running right in there with the top guys, and a great finish, great result for Max Voland at his hometown race. Of course, the Club MX team might be based in South Carolina, but Max Voland from near Sacramento, California, Granite Bay is listed as sometimes. Great result for Max. A little bit better and a little bit closer to what his true potential is. A few spots back, a top 10 overall finish. Great performance from Carson Mumford once again on the AEO Powersports KTM racing machine. Mumford has been one of the most improved riders in the first couple rounds of AMA Motocross and nearly had two top 10 finishes in the motos. 8-11 for ninth overall. Obviously, Mumford had 3 years away from the Pro Motocross Championship. If you missed the Trans World Motocross takeover that Carson did after Fox Raceway or at the Fox Raceway National, it was a very entertaining episode. Of course, myself included with the Trans World Motocross family, so I'm a little biased, but I hope you guys check out the series. We will be following a different racer every single round this season, and Mumford, of course, mentioned that he really hasn't competed full time in AMA Motocross in quite some time since 2021, his second full year of pro motocross. Had some starts in 2023, filling in for the Pro Circuit Kawasaki team. 2024, no starts. Had a Supercross only team that year with Moto Concepts Honda. Then last season was injured and parted ways with the Quad Lock Honda team, so we didn't see Carson in the 2025 Nationals either. But he has been riding very well so far. He looks like he belongs in the top 10. Lost a couple spots late in the second moto, but man, he has been improving and showing a lot of promise in these last couple weeks. His former teammate Dylan Schwartz a few spots back, 15th overall for Dylan, another California boy from Alpine, 17-14 were his scores through the day. He came into the weekend a bit injured as well, left Paula with an AC separation in his shoulder, but he put together a very gritty performance. It wasn't his best performance outdoors, but man, scoring points, including a top 15 finish in that second moto, 15th overall. That's a pretty solid day when you're going into things with a banged up shoulder. 13 points on the afternoon for Schwartz. Now you go back to the MX6 Racing Kawasaki boys. First up, Marshall Welton. It was a bit of the same from Fox Raceway, just misses out on points during the first moto of the day, and he rebounded in the second moto. 24th to begin the day, but 15th, a fantastic finish for Marshall Welton in that second moto. He got through the carnage pretty unscathed and put together a nice top 15 result. Derek Kelly unfortunately dropped out of the first moto due to a crash. Of course, Kelly also a part of that MX6 racing team. Pair of crashes in the first moto. Crashed on the start, crashed a few laps later, gave him a hematoma that he believed looked like it was busted. Got some x-rays, got cleared. He taped it up, as he said on Instagram, went out for Moto 2, and he was in that giant pileup at the start of that race, and so many racers were involved in that as well. But he started gaining ground after remounting his machine and worked forward P16 at the end of the day for DK. And Derek was very consistent in that final moto after he got going. He had the best lap time consistency of any racer in the 250 division, 99.3% lap time consistency. He kept things in the same range pretty much all race long. Great performance from Derek. Not the best day, not the cleanest day, obviously not a drama-free day, but Derek Kelly still going out there and proving that he has the speed to compete at the highest level. 20th overall at the end of the day for DK, and then one spot behind him, another one of the Toyota Redlands Barax Yamaha riders, Parker Ross. He left Fox Raceway with a broken nose, but left Hangtown with points in each moto, 21-18. He's still a bit frustrated with his performance as of now, but he moved through the field late in the day after that first turn pileup and scored some points. Another Bar-X Yamaha guy, Lux Turner, unfortunately, not the weekend he wanted after such a stellar performance at Fox Raceway, but Lux was still fighting as well. Motocross, of course, a very humbling sport. You had two top 10 finishes, some fast lap times last weekend, and then Lux Turner goes to Hangtown, only 3 points on the board. Quite the change in pace for the number 43, but he had a bad start in the first moto. He was working his way through the pack, but a collision on that opening lap left Turner with a broken radiator hose. That caused things to start to overheat in the engine and knocked him out of the race, put him in 40th in the first moto. Then the second moto, he also went down in that massive pileup, lost his rear brake, so he rode for 35 minutes around the treacherous Hangtown circuit with no brake. He said in his Instagram post that he admitted His moto was a bit sketchy, but he still rebounded to get 19th in that final moto. What a way to fight back, even though it was a tough weekend. No quit in Lux Turner. Shout out to Jeremy Fapani, who is a rookie in the 250 MX division on his KTM. Of course, scored a podium at the end of the SMX Next Supercross season. Turned pro last week at Fox Raceway. Scored his first career professional points on Saturday at Hangtown. 20th place in the first moto. Jeremy running number 752 on his KTM, running 7 gear, a Monster Army helmet. He remained inside the points all moto long and walked away with the first 2 points of his career. He was also in the massive pileup. Stop me if you've heard that one before. And some people got a little bit of a laugh when he tried to remount his machine, grabbed the throttle, and the bike took off on him, looped out, flipped over. Unfortunately, Fapani was 38th place, a DNF in Moto 2, but he still walked away from Hangtown, scoring his first career point. So, congratulations to Jeremy. Obviously, a huge accomplishment for any motocross racer. And then the final rider in the 250 MX standings that scored points, Avery Long, 26-21. He is still recovering from that broken foot he suffered in the middle portion of the Supercross season. Not a great start to the day in 26, but he gained 11 spots at the end of the day, and he knocked a factory racer out of the points. Landon Gordon was fading back. Avery got him at the end to take away a point from Hangtown. Hopefully, the 57 continues to rehab, continues to get a bit stronger as the year progresses, and hopefully, we see him at 100% soon because I know he is capable of more. Now moving to a few notes from outside of the points. We had a couple racers qualify for their first career pro motocross start, including Aiden Kiefer, who recently joined the Phoenix Racing Honda team. Of course, Aiden is second generation racer, the son of Chris Kiefer. 31-27 for 32nd overall. Aiden struggled a bit at Fox Raceway, missed the cut in the consolation race, but things got better at Hangtown, better in qualifying, and ran inside the top 10 at the very beginning of the second moto. Obviously, motocross probably very eye-opening for someone in their first career start running that 30-minute, 35-minute pace. Also, Alvin Hillen from the SLR Honda team and Nate Freehill aboard his Kawasaki competing in their first pro starts. Hillen won the consolation race to qualify. Freehill took the final spot in the Fast 36th. Those two racers were 36th and 37th overall, respectively. Freehill getting the better of Hillen during the motos. Then Preston Masiangelo, we know that he has been pro since the beginning of 2025, but he has joined a team for 2027 early. He is with the CDF Racing organization, the team that showed up to several of the 250 West rounds with pink machines, whether they were KTM or gas equipment. KTM right now is what Masiangelo is running, and he is getting his feet wet with the CDF crew. Missed the cut at Fox Raceway, but qualified at Hangtown 32-28, I believe, in the motos for Masiangelo. Then another one of the Phoenix Racing Honda guys, Gavin Towers. Really tough day on Saturday. He called it one of those days you want to forget. Crashes and damage all day. A bent front brake rotor in the first moto, which sent him out of the race, and then a couple more crashes in Moto 2. Really miserable day for the number 73, but on the bright side, we're going to Thunder Valley this weekend, and Thunder Valley was the site of his first professional points a year ago. Hopefully, we can see Towers back inside the top 20 this weekend. Now we'll move over into the WMX side of things. A very entertaining and fast-paced round one. Battles for the win all weekend long. Lachlan Turner, Charlie Cannon picking up where they left off in the 2025 season. Lala, another 1-1 performance, another win at Hangtown. Charlie Cannon, 3-2. She crossed the finish line in second during the first moto, but lost the position due to accelerating off track. Michaela Nielsen 2-3 for third overall. A huge ride in that first moto. It looked like she might miss the race. A late engine swap from the SLR team, but they got her back out there during the sight lap, and she went out and competed. Obviously, A lot of talented ladies all throughout the field. Shout out to Lillian Pettis. Best career result so far, sixth place in each moto and in the overall standings. Congratulations to Lily. And there were, of course, a lot of newcomers this weekend in addition to some of the racers we're used to. I'll mainly spend the time this week on our WMX Spotlight talking about some of the newcomers to America. First up, Taylor McCutcheon, another one of these Aussie imports. Taylor representing the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki team, making her debut in America, and it was a solid weekend. She was second on the leaderboard during the first warm up session on Friday morning. Strong start in the first moto. She ran second for a bit. Of course, the top three ended up working past her, but those ladies are the cream of the crop in the WMX division. Fourth place in Moto 1. Fifth place, a little bit tougher in Moto 2. Jordan Jarvis got her late, but 4 5, something to build on for McCutcheon. Hopefully, she's able to keep dialing in that speed and getting acclimated to the United States, and maybe she'll be in the podium fight every single weekend this year. Also, cool to see the PRMX team stepping up to support one of the female athletes in the sport. Always awesome to see these teams giving out support and a helping hand to some of the most talented women in the world. Also from Australia coming over, Emma Milashevich, 7-7 during the weekend and 7th overall. She rode without a rear brake in the second moto following an early collision and still was really solid. Really calm ride, poised under the pressure. Another Aussie in there, and it was a family affair because you had Joel, I believe her brother, attempted to qualify in the 450 class on a Yamaha two-stroke, missed the cut by a few spots, but a really cool weekend for that bunch. Also, Destiny Slingerland, not an Aussie, but coming over from Canada, making a trip south of the border. Destiny, another women's racer on a Yamaha number 708. She claimed ninth overall, 14th in the first moto, not quite indicative of her full speed. Eighth place to end the day on Saturday. That was a big step up for Slingerland. Ninth overall, a nice result in her first start over here in America. And also Piper Bell, who just turned pro. She's on a KTM training with Eddie Ray, Jessica Patterson down at the Next Level 101 facility. Of course, Jessica was a former star of WMX in the early 2010s. Bell made some moves, turned some heads in that second moto, pulling the whole shot aboard her machine. She ended up clipping Michaela Nielsen's rear wheel and going down, but she went 8-9 in her debut. A pretty solid beginning to her professional career. Congrats to Piper on the solid debut and the whole shot, and to all of the women who competed. A great show at Hangtown. Hopefully, they can continue at Thunder Valley to put on a show. And of course, we now have the European Women's Champion, Lot Van Drunen, coming over for this weekend at Thunder Valley, which is really cool to see. We might be able to see a Van Drunen versus Turner battle and finally get the answer to some of these bench racing questions we've had for a while and who truly is the best women's racer on the planet. Hopefully, these WMX girls can keep the momentum rolling. Two more rounds coming right up, Thunder Valley and High Point, before a break in the middle portion of their season. Now moving into the 450 class for the second consecutive week, it was Christian Craig, the top non-factory performer on his quad lock Honda machine. Christian 15-8 for 11th overall. He was running ninth in the first moto, but unfortunately went down, fell back to 15th. He was steady though in the second moto, and he beat a lot of big names: Cooper Webb, Justin Barsha, Mikkel Harup among the racers Craig beat to the finish line. It's been a solid start to the summer so far for Christian. He's pretty quiet in Supercross, a little disappointing maybe compared to Joey Savacci, his teammate who is logging top fives and top tens on a regular basis. But Christian stepping up for the outdoors, and he's always been a bit underrated outdoors on the 450. Let's see if he can keep building that momentum. And then moving in the right direction this week, 12th overall, Valentin Guillot on the Gizmo Racing Yamaha, of course, the Swiss veteran, back once again. He raced some 250 East Supercross, got banged up, still not quite at 100% after a brutal practice crash in Cleveland, but he's giving it a go. Fox Raceway was not a good day, but Hangtown was 15-11, 14-11 for 12th overall, a big time improvement. And he spent the second half of the second moto in 11th. Huge swing in the right direction after no points in the first moto last week, and then a DNF in the second one. Valentin Guillot, of course, was in that 11 to 15 range frequently, sometimes in the 7 to 10 range a year ago. I think he's definitely capable of doing that again, despite the amount of talent in the field. And he took a big step to moving back to that direction frequently. Let's see if he can keep up the newfound momentum at Thunder Valley. Speaking of momentum and imports, we have Cornelius Tondell, who went 16-15 for 14th overall. Great day for Cornelius, his first start at Hangtown. Of course, he's over here the full summer with ISRT Kawasaki. Got some TV time on the broadcast there, representing for Norway, of course. Improved his consistency, had a decent ride, scored some points Moto 1 last week at Fox Raceway, but unfortunately dropped out of the points in Moto 2. He's only 23 years old, of course, like I mentioned. He's learning the tracks every race weekend. His first time on the track would have been Saturday morning in Q1. Cornelius getting his feet wet. Wait until that middle portion of the summer because Redbud, Southwick, Millville, those were the tracks he competed at a season ago. Those will be his second times at those racetracks, so he will have a little bit more time under his belt and some familiarity with some courses later in the year. But nonetheless, Cornelius Tondell, great weekend in Hangtown. Look for more from him this year as he continues to get acclimated with both America and the Kawasaki. Primarily spent his time in MXGP on either a Honda or a KTM, so still learning the green machine as well. Speaking of green machines, a few spots back, 2017 in the motos. Mitchell Harrison, Money Mitch, points in both motos on his Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki machine. Unfortunately, the influx of factory racers coming back or jumping into the class like Hayden Deegan and Mikkel Harup, it's really hurt Mitchell Harrison and his chances of making the playoffs. He's still right there on the bubble, just 2 spots back as of now, but you have other racers like Deegan who are below the cut line trying to bump their way in. Of course, a long summer ahead. So a lot of things could change, but Mitchell Harrison might be in danger of needing to qualify as a wild card during the playoffs this year when you have Deegan, Barsha, Harup, even a guy like Benny Bloss on the outside looking in as of now. But depending on how many points Mitchell Harrison could score, there are still some riders ahead of him he could potentially move ahead of and knock them out of a potential automatic playoff spot. Let's see what happens for the number 41. But double points or points in both motos on Saturday. A good day of racing for Mitchell. Of course, Mason Semmens, we mentioned him earlier. We had our interview with him. Hope you enjoyed getting to hear some insight from the RPM Racing KTM rider, of course, a regular in the NGPC series. He's not a usual motocross competitor, but man, when he shows up at these AMA Nationals, he does a great job. 1919, unfortunately, the motocross math was not in his favor, as I mentioned, 22nd overall, but still a good day for Mason, and he'll be back in the NGPC series later in the year. Plus, we have a couple veterans a bit deeper in the field. We had Freddie Noren and Vince Freeze. Freddie, points in the first moto, 17th place, rebounded after a tough weekend at Fox Raceway. But unfortunately, he was a couple spots shy in moto number 2. Didn't score in both motos, but still Freddie back into the points, which is a good sign for the Swede. And Vince Freeze, he claimed the final point of the afternoon. Unfortunately, he was a DNF in Moto 1, dropped out fairly early on, finished 39th, but he was back for Moto 2 and he was able to claim the last point, 21st position for Vince, another one of the ISRT Kawasaki riders, of course, as we mentioned last week. Vince is back in pro motocross for the first time in over a decade, so he's still getting acclimated as well. Now, some news and notes from racers outside the 450 points before we conclude today, as well as an update on the first Canadian motocross round. Shout out to Bryce Hammond, one of the tallest riders in the field. He has been one of the best privateers of the early stretch of the season, 23-27 for 27th overall at Hangtown. And unlike some of these other racers with teams behind them, Bryce, of course, doing it on his own aboard a Yamaha number 210. Don't know how many races he will be running throughout this season, but nonetheless, great to see him performing well right there on the outside of the points. Maybe he can break in if he's going to do more of these nationals. Josh Mosiman was back again at Hangtown, of course, the older brother of Michael Mosiman and traditional test rider for Motocross Action magazine. Josh usually tries his hand at a couple nationals every year out in California. He raced pro before he became a test rider several years ago, and now he comes back for a couple races a year. He had that Hot Wheels themed graphic kit aboard his KTM, which was really nice looking. Of course, home race for Josh, a California boy. 35-36 in the motos. He won the consolation race as well. Number 171. Always cool to see Josh representing for the MXA crew out at the Nationals. And unfortunately, Kyle Webster from the Quad Lock Honda team, of course, the Aussie, over here in another cameo appearance. He started the day strong, was running around the top 15, but went down hard early on. 40th place. He was the first DNF from the opening moto of the day, and he would not return later in the day. He was a DNS for Moto 2. Don't know the full diagnosis as of Monday afternoon for Webster, but hopefully he has a speedy recovery and will be back on the line, whether it is here in America or overseas in Australia pretty soon. Heal up. Best wishes, Kyle Webster. And, of course, as I mentioned, the Canadian Motocross Series kicking off this weekend, round number 1 of the Triple Crown Series, Wild Rose MX near Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And shout out before we get to the Americans, shout out to Harry Koulis, who of course competed here the last couple summers. He is now a part of the Canadian Red Bull KTM team. And Harry in his Canadian debut, 3-2 for second overall. A nice debut to his time north of the border. Of course, Dylan Wright getting the overall win, 1-1. Dylan, perhaps the best and fastest Canadian consistently over the last few years, a guy who has multiple championships in the class. Also in the 450 class, when we're talking about Americans, Logan Leitzel has moved north of the border, and he is competing aboard a Beta in the Canadian Nationals this summer. Of course, still representing his famous number 208. Logan's beginning to the year 8-10, ninth overall. A nice day in his beginning as he gets acclimated. Of course, a guy who's been on a Kawasaki the last couple of years. A big change for him on the Beta machine. Beta Racing Canada supporting his efforts this summer. And of course, Logan's girlfriend, Jamie Astudillo, competing in the WMX class for Priority MX Gas Gas. Jamie went 2-4 for fourth overall. She's the defending champion there. But it was Jordan Jarvis who pulled double duty after racing in Hangtown going 5-4. Jordan went 3-1 on Sunday up at Wild Rose MX to claim the overall win and take the victory in the Canadian Series opener. 2 season openers in 2 days for Jordan Jarvis. Now switching to the 250 class, Preston Kilroy starting the summer off in style. He is the number 1 in the 250 class, your defending champion. Of course, competed over here a few years ago with Bar X Suzuki, Club MX Yamaha. Starts his title defense the best way possible, 1-1 on that MX 101 Yamaha. Several other Americans in the field, including Josh Boaz, who is over there competing aboard the AVL Husqvarna machine. Josh spent the summer last year in America on a 450 machine for the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program, ran a few races in Canada. Josh, fourth overall, 6.5 finishes. Consistency played out for him. One spot behind him, Ryder Malinowski, of course, a part of that Club MX Yamaha team. He's going to be riding north of the border some this summer. 9.3 for fifth overall. Nice podium ride to end the day for Malinowski, of course, one of the top SMX Next competitors when he is here in the United States. He is aboard that MX 101 racing team for the summer, of course, like I mentioned, Club MX here in the States, but MX 101 north of the border, and he is going to be one to watch throughout the summer. A couple other names in the class include Kale Kuchnicki, who finished 18th overall on his Gas 2017 points in both motos. Same for Blake Broderick, 1918 for 19th overall. A couple other Americans in there scoring some points at the first Canadian round. We'll be updating you on some of the top American performers and some of the things happening in the Canadian MX series throughout the summer. Also, a quick attaboy to Jorgen Talviku, who competed here in America a couple summers ago. Jorgen is competing primarily in Europe. Of course, he was at the MXGP race this weekend in Latvia at Kegums, and what a performance in the second moto, an 8th place moto finish. Jorgen doing things on his own, no team effort, no big setup over there. He runs a few of the MXGP rounds, and what a performance. 8th place in the second moto. Had to quickly give Jorgen a shout out, of course, from Estonia. Also, shout out to Jan Panzer, who we've had on the Unsung Heroes of the Motocross of Nations before. P6 in the second moto, his best result of the year so far. Shout out to all of the guys ripping in the MXGP series as well, who are competing as non factory and privateer racers. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Unsung Heroes of the Hangtown Motocross Classic, episode number 19 of the year, number 2 of the Pro Motocross season. Of course, we'll be back next week to talk about the Thunder Valley National and to talk about what happened there from WMX to the 250 class to the 450 class. Thank you once again to Mason Semmens for his time on this week's episode. RPM Racing KTM, NGPC regular, turned pro motocross point scorer. Thank you to Mason for the time. I am Trey Stire. Be sure to follow, subscribe to the Stire Sound on all platforms so you never miss an episode of the Unsung Heroes or the Stire Sound or Whose Standing Is It Anyway. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week, folks, and we'll see you after Thunder Valley.